you don't actually need a villain. All you need is some circumstances that your character overcomes, which makes him from who he used to be to who he is today. So in your storytelling, you don't necessarily need a grand awakening, a grand transformation. If you have one, that's fine. But if that's not your experience, there are little transformations in every day. So storytelling can be really, how you get into the morning routines, how you chose today to start your morning different, and how it changed the way your day went, and what kind of conclusion it created for you in your head.
Let's learn how our next guest gets up, dress up, and show up on purpose. Enjoy the episode. Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special guest to the show, Natasha Zo. She is a former journalist from Siberia turned international media relations specialist and freelance writer. Known for her connector skills, she guided a number of authors to Amazon best-selling status, booking national TV appearances, top media platforms, and over 400 media interviews. She's an inspiring writer on a mission to amplify the message of conscious leaders through media. So I am excited because that mission is pretty bold and she is well on her way in achieving that. And I love to see purpose-driven leaders like herself on our show. So with no further ado, Natasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to speak with you.
I am honored as well. And we love our hero's journey here. So tell us about how this all got started for you, your journey thus far.
Well, you know that sometimes you feel the calling of what you're meant to do really early on, and then just throughout your life, it kind of takes shape of how it's supposed to look like. So the communication and telling the stories of people was been my calling since I remember myself. I became a journalist at the age of 15, meaning, not a school newspaper. I became like an actual journalist getting paid real money for, like, small money, but real money for writing and going behind the scene into the media world. So by the age of 21, I had like 5 years experience. I was there already full time. I was working in, you can say, the newsroom for a local newspaper. I was working in print at that time, and that gave me like a huge perspective. So yeah, the communication and telling stories was always my calling, but this experience of going into media world really gave me some perspective of maybe media world, traditional media is not where I want to tell the story. I kind of got quite disillusioned. I'm sure lots of your listeners would relate that, if you observe a little bit of the world today, media is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Media is a total mess, and if you look there closely, you see the manipulation, the dishonesty, like the paid agenda here and there. There's very little, I guess, if not, or maybe none channels right now that they don't have an existing agenda. So throughout the different stages in life, it led me to a bit of a search. Okay, so what am I meant to do then? Okay, maybe I don't want to write. Maybe I don't want to be a part of this. This is awful. This is this is horrible. I don't want anything to do with it. It's actually kind of get me off writing for a bit. Like in my mid-20s, I did not write. I maybe wrote sometimes as a marketer, as like marketing copies, like for other people, but I didn't write. I didn't use the writing as a self-expression, and it was pretty painful as well because it is my calling, and it is what I like meant to do here. It's just the first version of how I was trying to have this calling play out was not the right version. So that led me to 6 years ago starting my little PR agency. and that really has taken off. That gives me an opportunity to follow the calling, to tell the stories of people who I feel inspired, to utilize the knowledge of the media that I got over the years, and to bring message of light and wisdom, and to really bring the messages of the people that I can really trust and that I can really relate to. And that's kind of a great combination for me. It's like I feel on a right mission, and I feel like what I'm doing is doing good to the world. I feel like I'm working with people who are truthful, inspiring, bringing our world forward. And that's a bit of a journey behind my relations with media, and also finding own passion.
Right. Yeah, and you've lived on what, three continents, right? So you've actually seen different sides of the world, but do you find the media is still the same, portraying or instilling fear in a lot of the audience, the people that listen?
That's a really good question. It's since we're talking about living in different continents, one of the countries that I lived in is Malaysia, and they have a saying there. They say same but different.
Mm.
So yeah, to your question, same but different. The nature of media, yes, the kind of fundamental um, this disconnect there is from the fact that we expect media to be truthful. We expect them to portray the most objective and proven information. Yet it's quite often it's impossible. Quite often it's a mission impossible. They are gonna have perspective. That like every person writing is gonna have his or her own perspective, and it's up to the different media politics and media channels on how much of it is going to be allowed to come through, right? So the nature is subjective, right? But the idea is, oh, it's meant to be objective. So yeah, that is, I guess, the same in many different places. And then there is the difference in the level to which kind of different opinions are tolerated in different countries. Basically the level of censorship, right? Straightforward. And my own country, where I come from, is going down the hill from very long time ago. The government has purchased, actually purchased major media channels like in the early 2000s, and there are some places which maybe are more tolerant to more diverse opinion, but then the landscape is changing really fast, and sometimes sometimes in the media landscape, what used to be the alternative opinion, or what used to be the other opinion, becomes the dominating narrative, and then everything else gets censored. So it's a lot of human nature playing out, and in how this works. So
Yeah.
same but different.
Yeah, there's a need to control the narrative. There's that power that takes forefront in importance. Now, given your diverse experience, how have those shaped your own media relations and writing approach? Because you're set out to do things very differently.
Mm. Well, I treat it, and that's I think a very sobering approach to me. I in 2024, each one of us is a little bit of our own media channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each one of us gets to choose, what do we talk about, what do we bring attention to, and a lot of people think that the power of the media is on, like, or do you tell the truth or not? Do you tell, do you twist the facts or you don't? No, a lot of it is actually, it's what's called the agenda setting. It's like, what do you talk about and what do you keep silent about in your life, in the society that surrounds you, in the leaders that you come across, in the issues that you come across. So that's the big question there, and that's a big calling for me, for everyone. Like, what do you choose to talk and what do you choose to keep silent on? Even if you have your primary, your use your social media or your podcast for primary goals, there is always, like, we're all human. We all exist in, like, in one field. Like, are you always gonna just keep to your chosen topic, or is there some, or are there some issues that you're gonna give the voice to through yourself as a platform?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you said that quite eloquently, because it's loud, right? It's noisy. So
It's
especially,
noisy.
it's very noisy out there with social media, and then the need to compare oneself to another can cause a challenge as well. So I'm curious to some of the common challenges that the conscious leaders that you work with face in getting heard, getting their message out there, and how do you help them overcome the noise? How do you help them stand out?
So I work with amazing people that I feel really inspired by. At some point in my life, I got into the personal development industry, and that created like this desire to work with this kind of people and leaders in my life. So I work with people who teach meditation. I work with people who work with maybe hypnotherapy, who work with the conscious leadership, who teach people to build businesses in a conscious way, who teach people about meditation, about yoga, about breath work, a lot of like alternative medicines, conscious living, all of this kind of practices. And on one hand, you see a rise of this sort of topic. On the other hand, the more we get into it, we see that there's tons of things which are still taboo and which are actually actively censored in in the traditional media. So some examples would be I might not get the year right, around year 2019, 2020, a lot of alternative health sites got deranked in Google. So a lot of people in my, it's called the Google Medic update. A lot of people in my circles lost their sites with 500,000 monthly traffic and up. They just gone from, 500,000 visits to maybe like 20,000, 30,000 visits, like nothing. So,
Why?
yeah, there's a big, you can look it up. It's called Google Medic Update. It's what they say, it's an algorithms update on how the information gets prioritized. Basically, it's always a question of the algorithm, and I guess it's a mystery we never know, right? Is it something that's intentional, or is it something that happen to affect those sites in this way? So we can only speculate that. So, and then then other example, I work with a lot of people who are in conscious relations, in intimacy, tantra, this sort of question, which is a lot of beautiful teachings are there in how we relate from men to women, from women to men, how we relate to the masculine energy, feminine energy in the world. Absolutely, those people are absolutely struggling, even not in the traditional media, in the social media. Again, for obvious reasons, all the topics related to maybe like sex is kind of to protect the users is more regulated, but as a result, these people are struggling to teach their knowledge, which quite often I find really empowering and really needed. So there are at the same time, while there is a lot of information coming out on personal development and different aspects of bettering yourself, I see tons of examples of struggles people in this field are facing to bring their information out there. So there is a no one size fits all kind of how we help the conscious leaders, but depending on the topic, depending on the level of visibility, I teach the concept of 5 levels of visibility, which we can talk more a little bit later. And depending also on their personality, we find the most suitable channel for them to share that knowledge. It can look like podcast tour, for example. Podcast, being a podcaster yourself is an amazing free space that really risen in popularity in the recent years. There are a lot of information that's shared, and a lot of communities have formed. A lot of freedom of speech is there in nowadays, and that's amazing. So that might look like a podcast for someone of the conscious leaders that we work with. Some need credibility boost, and then we use the traditional media to get this boost. We can do a magazine cover on their topic. We can do the cover article carrying their story. We can do the media feature, get them like featured on some more of a traditional sites just uh, to just add the credibility. This is a weird world, right? On one hand, the traditional media is not the only place where information gets shared anymore, but on the other hand, they still carry like a huge weight of credibility, and in this way sometimes saying that someone who's featured in Marie Claire, for example, gives them the credibility they need to keep on going on their mission. So those are the different kind of formats we use. With some we really just work with nailing down the messaging, because that's the primary thing. I think everyone basically who is struggling to get their message out there, it's something in the messaging, in how people relate to the message, in how people understand your language. Is there actual target group that is in need of this message? Is it big enough? So a lot of it has to do as well with working on brand message with conscious leaders we work with.
Yeah, that's huge. That's even for a company with a product, the branding is key to be able to hit the target audience. The message has to resonate with them. And then we hear a lot about storytelling. What's your take on the need for storytelling to get that message to resonate?
Wow, that's such a huge question. I don't know where to start. So let's do like this. Absolutely, yeah, I'm a big believer in storytelling, but I also a big believer in taking a little bit of pressure off that. What I see is when people hear of like, oh, you need to be storytelling, you need to be story. Like I see a bit pressure of like, okay, I need to tell the story of my life, the hero's journey, the transformation, how I was, completely under the rags, and everything was like the absolute worst kind of nightmare for me, and then how one day it turned out. Some of us have the story. Some of it, like I know you have an amazing transformation story of how you got your PhD and education and career. And some of us don't have this like grand story, right? But there is a story in your everyday. There is a story in your everyday adventure, and like in how you see things and how you treat people around you and how you take the decisions. So that can be a story as well. I guess I'll tell a story if I have a moment.
Yeah, please.
Cool. I once wrote an email to one of my favorite writers. He is a fiction writer. His name is Richard Bach. He's been published all around the world, translated to all the languages. One of his most famous books is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And I've been reading him since I was a child, and then at that point of life, I wanted to write a fiction as well. Never finished it, but I wanted to write a fiction, and for some reason, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find his email, I'm gonna find his contact, and I'm gonna send him an email asking for for some story writing tips, basically. And I don't know how it happened. His website looked like, kind of something made in 90s, really crappy, really, like I didn't think it was the actual thing. So I sent an email, and one day I received an answer. So the question that I asked him was like, hey, Richard, I'm writing my fiction book, and I really respect your work. How do I write the counter force, the evil force that would that would create trouble for my main character? I'm kind of struggling with the whole villains idea, because it seems a little bit it seems too simple. It's like, oh, they are just villain because I need a villain, because I need a counter force. And he's like, hey, you don't actually need a villain. All you need is some circumstances that your character overcomes, which makes him from who he used to be to who he is today. So in your storytelling, you don't necessarily need a grand awakening, a grand transformation. If you have one, that's fine. But if that's not your experience, there are little transformations in every day. So storytelling can be really, how you get into the morning routines, how you chose today to start your morning different, and how it changed the way your day went, and what kind of conclusion it created for you in your head. So there is, I think we need to take a little bit of pressure off storytelling, and there is a story in literally everything.
That is the best explanation I've heard around storytelling. And it's a
He's a
buzzword.
really famous author. He knows what he's talking about. I'm just retelling.
That was amazing. I don't think I'll ever forget that. It doesn't have to be grandiose of any sort. Just everyday activities, transactions can get you from who you are now to transform to who you've become and how you've changed. I
Right,
love that. That is well put.
right.
And you put in the morning routine, how you can choose every morning to be different from when you woke up, from when you went to bed the day before. So let's talk about your morning routine. How do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Okay, let's do this. Just as you, I'm a mom.
Yeah.
The morning routines as a mom, I found quite
17,
different.
17-month olds running around. Yeah.
It's quite a different situation. So what I have is, rather than the thing that I do every morning, I kind of have like a little menu of the thing that I know I could do. Sometimes it's a 15-minute stretch. Sometimes it's a walk on the beach. We're like really very close to the beach with my daughter. Sometimes it's just asking my husband to look for and like just cooking breakfast in silence. So I know I kind of I know the things that make me feel good, and I kind of go choosing, but both in a combination of what do I feel like today, what the circumstances allow
Yeah.
today. Okay, my husband is not around. No one is around to watch a baby. I'm not really in a place to make my 15-minute stretch that I would enjoy so much. Okay, let's grab all of us and let's grab a baby and let's go to the beach. And that's
Right.
get some sun, get some fresh air. It's quite warm where we live, so dip my hands on the toes. Done. Okay, so there it's already set something for the day. So that's kind of how I've been how I've been treating it.
Yeah, and I love the flexibility because it does changes depending on what everyone around you is doing, especially as a mom, a new mom. You just kind of sometimes we're just winging it, and
You're
I
a
like
little bit of a mercy of the
yeah,
people and circumstances.
yeah. And for you, the most profound thing is you said you know what makes you feel good. You may have a list of things that you could do, the stretching, the walk,
Yes.
even meditation or cooking in silence, but you know what works for you. And that's the beauty with the morning routine. It's flexible in that way. You can change it up.
Mhm.
There are some
Mhm.
non-negotiables. I wake up at 5:30 so that I can get a 15-minute meditation in. Because I know once baby's up, forget it's no longer about me. And you know this.
Yes. Yeah. For me, it's a stretching. For me, the if anything falls down, yeah, the my stretching. That's what I'm gonna do. And yeah, sometimes I would do it with the baby because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's already at the age when I can do it with her around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Tell us, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
I hang out on Instagram, Natasha Zo underscore. That's my profile, and I have different cool things on about working with media and about building your visibility that people can get off my Instagram. So one place to maybe get started is to look through the highlight that's called 5 levels, where I talk about 5 levels of visibility. It's I think it's a very powerful concept on like kind of place helping you to understand where you are with your visibility. Because even though we talked about media is not necessarily the first step for everyone and for every brand. It comes with about like third level of visibility. If you're at level 1, level 2, just look through it. That there is. I also have some guides on different levels of visibility. You can
Mhm.
DM me the word like level 1 or level 2. And that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. The storytelling piece was really, really key and profound here. And I'm glad you shared that with us earlier. So we thank you so much, Natasha, for taking the time and joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Lynette. It was such a pleasure.
Yes, pleasure is all mine.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please comment and tell us what was your favorite part, your favorite habit that you are going to try out for yourself today. Comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.